to come and speak to you guys for a little quick minute because I need to go to bed. I am absolutely tired. And I need to go to bed. But I wanted to come talk to you because as I was preparing to go to bed, I was trying to catch up because I had a very busy day. So I was trying to catch up to what happened in day two of jury selection for the Carmelo Anthony trial. Now, I did a live the last night. Was it last night or Monday? I don't even remember now what day it was, but I did a live to discuss the foundation of the case, right? So for us to do a brief overview of the details of the case, how we arrived here, how we got here, right? So there are two Frisco County boys at the time they were 17 years old. They were at a school in Frisco attending a track meet. Both of them were athletes participating in this track meet. Hey Miller, hey Boo. Both of these young boys were athletes at this track meet and were participants in the track meet. And they did not go to the same school. It's been confirmed by both families that they did not know anything of each other, had not had any previous interactions or altercations with one another. And you have Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. And the altercation ensues, and Carmelo ends up stabbing uh, Austin, and Austin dies, right? And so that is I did a live the other day. You can go back to that so you can get caught up on everything. But the reason I'm coming to you guys really quick tonight is because I was listening to Queen Sheba. I told you her, Nick and Knight, and Gerald from North Carolina Beat. They are the three content creators that I know that we are familiar with in this sector that are covering the case. They are on the ground covering the case. So there are probably going to be plenty more people that are going to talk and discuss the case, but those three are boots on the ground covering this case. And so in the live that we did the other night, in order to get us updated to what's going on, we I started the live off and I said I want to discuss the size of the knife. I said this is going to be an important piece, an important component of the case, right? You said I'm trying to get over the hurdle of why he was under an opposing team's tent in the first place. Okay, so the other night I told you the reason he was under that tent was because it started pouring down raining. It started pouring down raining. It was like a canopy style tent from what I understand. And so it was like everybody, from what people said that were there, everybody was just trying to find safety and shelter underneath somewhere until the rain stopped. And so I think it's more than reasonable that he would, hey, Sir Miguel, how are you? I think it's more than reasonable that he would have been under that tent. But regardless to whatever reason he was under the tent, for whatever reason he was under the tent, even though the tent was meant for a particular school, nobody there owned the tent. Austin Metcalf did not own that tent. That was not Austin Metcalf's property. And so for him to demand for Carmelo Anthony to vacate the tent and threaten that if you don't vacate this tent, I'm going to physically remove you from the tent. And then for him to attempt to do that and place his hands on him, that is enough for, I think, for the defense to come up with this self-defense strategy. But what Queen Sheba let us know today is something that we discussed in the live, because I started the live off before I even gave the timeline of events for that day, talking about the size of this knife. Because I said that this is going to be a very key component in the case. Now, it is my opinion that the prosecution's theory to get to the threshold of first degree murder is that they are going to try to use the fact that he intentionally brought that knife with him to the event. So they are gonna somehow, I don't know how they think they're gonna do this. And Miller, I think my main thing is that he's being charged with first degree murder. That's my main thing. I don't disagree with him being expelled. Because according to the Texas law, that is correct. They have a zero tolerance policy in the Texas school system. And so the punishment for having a weapon on school grounds, of a certain type of weapon, right, is up to expulsion, right? Now, I don't think that includes guns, but to a certain type of weapon, it is expulsion. Now, we talked about the inches on the knife, and I told you guys last night, I bet you that that knife was under 5.5 inches. And the reason that I said that was because he was not charged with carrying that knife. If it was over 5.5 inches, he could have been charged with that knife and it would have been a third degree felony. But when it's under 5.5 inches, it's a class A misdemeanor. And so there is no jail time that comes with that. So I was thinking in my mind, right, that if you charge him with the murder and you're charging him with first degree murder, and you're going to somehow try to make it seem that him bringing that knife with him the day of the event had some type of intent to it, because I don't know that there are only two things that occurred that they can tie in. And it is him bringing that knife the day of the event. And then when he gives him this contingency threat, the contingency threat that he gave to Austin is, if you put your hands on me, you're going to see what's going to happen. He didn't threaten him. He said, if you put your hands on me, you're going to see what is going to happen. So just like people think that Carmelo had a choice to make, Austin had a choice to make. He was not, Austin was not defending his property. He was not defending his person. There was nothing threatening about what Carmelo was doing about seeking refuge under a tent due to the torrential rain. What human would deprive someone of seeking shelter when, especially amongst students that are supposed to be showing good sportsmanship at a sport event? What is the reason that you would deny him to be able to stay there at least until the rain lets up? But not to mention that it's not up to you. You don't own the tent. Yes, the tent does have the school name. It was assigned by schools, but that was not property of Austin Metcalf to defend. It was not his property. And so, just like many people want to know, well, why would he be under a tent that doesn't belong to him? Why would a person have an issue with someone seeking refuge under a tent at a track meet when the rain begins? I have seen this happen plenty of occasions when there are golf tournaments. And there might be one group of, they have different tents set around different places. And if it starts to pour down raining, then they go under and they seek refuge under whatever place they can until the rain stops. That's how it, you're not talking about these are gangs here. Like, this is not a gang. This is a school event where you are supposed to be learning good sportsmanship. And the fact that it is pouring down raining, why would you deny him to be underneath the tent? Furthermore, why would you take it and escalate it to the point where you are threatening to place your hands on someone to physically remove them from the tent? And so then when he puts his hands on Carmelo, you got you have to ask yourself, he is in a tent full of people who know each other, who are friends with one another, who are of another skin tone. Let's say Carmelo didn't do what he did. Have we ever considered what could have happened to Carmelo and him trying to physically defend himself some other way? How those other people may have intervened and what that could have ended up and looked like for him? So I'm not saying that I agree with Carmelo's decisions. What I'm saying is I can understand. I can understand. You can understand at some point why he may have panicked and chose to do what he did. But he did not threaten this boy. He gave him a contingency threat that said, if you do this, you are going to find something out. And he decided to want to find out what it was. And when I read the statements last night, from what the overall statements was from the police gathered from those that were there, all of them agree that as somehow Austin placed his hands. Some of them had a different angle or a different perception of what he actually had interaction with that belonged to Carmelo, but they all agree that Austin made the first move on Carmelo. They all agree with that. And then they say something so surprising. Well, we didn't know he had a weapon. Well, why would it take for you to know that he had a weapon for you to do the right thing and keep your hands to yourself? Like, like, why is it that him having a weapon would have been the only thing that may have motivated you to keep your hands to yourself? Yes, I did hear that, Queen Keish. I did. I did hear that there are no black jurors. I don't know. Based on what Neek and Queen Sheba stated about some of the questions that the jurors were asking on day one, and based on their ethnicity, of the ethnicity of those individuals asking those questions, I want to say I'm still gonna be optimistic. But yes, I did hear that. I don't know how you selected a whole jury where not one person on there is black. I don't know. But I don't know the makeup of that county. And see, that is the other thing. This may speak more to the makeup of the county than anything. And this may give more reason to why Carmelo felt like he needed to do something to protect himself. Because if the makeup of your county is predominantly a particular hue, you may face some fears that you may not in a place where people look more familiar to you. Right? You said, I asked my kids 17, 19, and 24, is it common for students to be under another team's tent? And they said no. They said it would be weird to be under another team's tent, almost disrespectful. It was pouring down rain though, Miller. I can see if I can see if it was a sunny, clear sky, and maybe he would have went underneath the tent. And even if he would have did it then, even if he would have did it then, okay, you might look at it disrespectful, but that don't give you no right to tell somebody you gonna physically remove something from somewhere and put your hands on them for a place that don't belong to you. That's not your property. That's not the and I think that's the point that I'm stuck on. Is that it's not he's not defending his property. It was no reason that he felt that he needed to defend his person. Feeling a little disrespected doesn't give you the right to make your first move on someone and make someone else feel like they're being threatened. And this is a situation where it's pouring down raining. This is something that has been documented. So to me, it was disrespectful for them to expect him to stand out in the rain or to run out into the rain to go under another tent because it was their team tent. Like that, it wasn't just a lollygag, is what I'm saying. But even if that were the case, if we are going to look at the legal ramifications of all of this, Carmelo is claiming a self-defense. Even if it were the case that they felt disrespected because he stood underneath their tent. You said we don't know what really happened. We know it was raining, and we know what the police report gave. And there were people who gave eyewitness account of what they saw. Last night, that's what I read. I read what the eyewitnesses said. And all of the eyewitnesses said Austin put his hands on Carmelo in some kind of way. Some of them say that he grabbed him by his book bag first. Others say that he put his hands on him physically. So that's not just Carmelo saying what happened. That is what the police took from other reports. And my main thing is that this boy is being charged with a first-degree murder charge. Anybody who doesn't see something wrong with that, I think it is completely absurd. A first degree murder charge for you doing what you did to someone at a track meet that you don't know anything about. He did not come there that morning and plan to do any of that. None of that. But first degree murder, that's what you go with? And what they are going to do, they're going with first degree murder because they want to get the most favorable outcome for them for what it looks like politically. But they are going to add those lesser included in order to give the jury an option to convict him. But you've already placed a first degree murder on this boy's name. What happened that day? This was not that. According to that police report, we can see that this is not that. That's what I'm saying. I agree with the expulsion. I do not agree with no first degree murder charge. And I don't see how anybody arrives at first degree murder. When you hear the eyewitness accounts of what took place, when you hear what Carmelo admitted to himself, and one of the eyewitnesses was his brother, and it was Austin's brother, and Austin's brother says that his brother attempted to physically remove Carmelo from the tent. You said, so why is he getting starting at 2 years if it's first degree? No, it's not no starting at no 2 years. They are asking, according to what I heard, they are asking for 20. I don't know if it's 20 or 22 years. That is what they are asking. But they asked the jurors, would they be willing to give him a life sentence? And there were some people who were dismissed from the jury pool because they said absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think that this is the thing that most people have an issue. Most people have an issue that this 17-year-old boy who did not go to that track meet intending to do any harm to anyone that day, that he's being charged with a first degree murder charge. That is the issue that I think everyone has. When you look at the eyewitness accounts, one of those eyewitnesses being Austin Metcalf's own brother, who admits that his brother attempted to do something to physically remove this boy from that tent. And what they said was, we didn't know he had a weapon. Why does that matter? Why does whether he have a weapon matter on whether or not you decide to physically place your hands onto someone else? A person feeling disrespected, but but your personal space wasn't violated. That's one thing. But once you make the first move in a zero tolerance school zone, they don't. And this is how it works in a zero tolerance school zone. I don't know how many people have experience with a zero tolerance school zone, but in a zero tolerance school zone, they don't care who initiated and who responded. Both individuals are going to be disciplined accordingly. Hey, purple, purple. Both individuals are going to be disciplined accordingly. But in this case, there are overwhelming eyewitness accounts. We have not heard one account that the police have taken from anyone that says that Carmelo initiated that altercation. Everybody who tells the story confirms that Austin initiated the altercation and Austin attempted to violate and touch the person of Carmelo first. This is why this self-defense is the strategy, because it is overwhelming evidence that that is what happened. And like I said, people can debate on whether do they think he should be charged with something. I even said that last night. Maybe if there was something lesser on the table, I could consider based on looking at the law and looking at what we know now. And when the trial, there might be some more information that does come out in the trial, and I said that as well. But it's whatever information they have, I don't see it getting to a first degree murder charge because there is no premeditation. A first degree murder charge requires premeditation. Where are you getting this premeditation from? From the fact that he had a knife in his book bag? From the fact that he told the boy, if you put your hands on me, you're going to see what's going to happen? That's where you get the first degree? That's not enough for me. That's not a threshold for no first degree charge for me. Not at all. If we are gonna become that lax on what first degree murder is, it's gonna be a lot of people in trouble. This is I said it it's an overzealous prosecution. But the reason that I wanted to come on, because I said in the beginning of the live from last night that the size of the knife was going to matter. It's going to matter. Because he is able to carry. So this is what Queen Sheba was saying that the defense got reprimanded for today. They said that the defense was attempting to try to defend the case in front of the potential jurors. And the judge had to kind of like reprimand them behind that, right? But the defense began to mention the thing about the knife and the size of the knife. And this is what we started with last night. And I started with that because I was like, this is going to be important to people's perception on what happened, right? But I could be wrong, but I think that the defense did something like a little deceptive, right? They did something a little deceptive. Because last night when we talked about the knife and the size of the knife, and I explained that if the blade is over 5.5 inches in length, then that is considered a third degree felony. But if it is under 5.5, it is considered a misdemeanor, right? That's according to the law. So the misdemeanor charge would not carry any jail time. If it was over 5.5, that could carry up to 10 years jail time, right? Today, this defense attorney confirmed, and because we haven't been able to see any motions, any evidence submitted, none of that, because everything's been under seal. This is information that we may have found out before now, but now we're just finding it out, and we're finding out in the process of jury selection. So the defense is arguing today in jury selection in front of the potential jurors while they are selecting from the jury pool. He reveals that it is very strongly possible that this knife is under 5.5 inches long. This is exactly what we talked about last night. This is exactly I don't know if I came and talked to y'all last night or Monday because I'm deliriously tired. But whatever day I came to talk to you guys about this, we talked about the size of the knife and what that would imply. The thing I think that the defense attorney was deceptive on, and I could be wrong because he know the law better than me, but I have a feeling he's being a little deceptive on purpose. I think the prosecution will come back and clarify, but this part I think he's being a little deceptive on purpose. So, because I think he just wanted to insert it to give something to the jury pool, but also give something to the public for the public to go out and have too. So, he mentions the thing about the knife being under 5.5 inches and talks about it being perfectly legal for him to carry the knife, right? That in Texas, it's perfectly legal for him to carry this knife, right? Here in Baltimore, that's legal. It's legal for a child, that to carry a knife underneath that size. It was last. Okay, Miller, yeah, because I cannot remember. I've been working really hard. I've been looking at Excel spreadsheets for like hours for the last couple of days, and so I'm just delirious about this. So I wasn't sure what the time is because all I'm looking at is numbers everywhere, right? So he mentioned the thing about the knife. The thing that he was deceptive about was that he did not go into the Texas education code that we talked about in the live, where it says that you cannot have these particular items on school grounds. And it doesn't matter whether it was a school day or a school event, you cannot have them on school grounds. Now, the punishment for violating and having those things on school grounds is not any prison time according to the Texas Education Code, but it can be expulsion. And he was expelled. And so that is where I say I agree with the expulsion, because that is what the Texas Education Code says. He was not supposed to have that knife on school grounds. It wasn't about whether or not was he legally right to carry the knife. He was not supposed to have the knife on school grounds, whether it was a school day or a school event. And so that is where I believe that the attorney is finessing a little bit and trying to get that in real quick so he can get that out to the public to kind of put another opinion in public perception, because they have not been able to talk outside of the courtroom. So they have to use the courtroom to do it. And now that they had the media there, it was like, okay, let me get this part out in jury selection so that I can put the people in this frame of mind. And he equated all of this to the right to conceal, to carry, right, with guns. And so he's talking about, okay, do you know that he's within his legal right to carry a knife? And yes, he is in his legal right to carry a knife. The problem is not on school grounds. Not on school grounds. But even with him taking that knife on school grounds, the most severe punishment is expulsion according to the zero tolerance school policy. It is not any prison time. And so I knew there was a reason that we didn't see any charges for the knife, because what we cannot dispute is that Carmelo had a knife, right? And so if he had a knife that was over 5.5 inches, they could have charged him with that. That would have strengthened their case in a way. And then he also would have at least been, maybe, if he, even if he is found not guilty of the murder charge, he still could be facing up to 10 years imprisonment. And that would be something I would think that the prosecutors would have done if they had that option. I felt like the reason they did not do that, it was because I felt like it knew that that knife was under 5.5 inches. And so it was only a class A misdemeanor, and therefore there was no jail time associated with that. And so that's why they did not add a charge for him carrying the knife. That's just my opinion now, but I think my opinion is even more solidified by what the defense attorney revealed today during jury selection. And so I wanted to come to you guys and talk to you about that, because I thought that that was a neat little thing to talk about, especially because that was the first place we went to in our conversation on Monday, was talking about this knife, the size of the knife, and what does that mean? Does it mean that Carmelo was in his right to carry it, or was he not? It was it all about the place that he was carrying it or not? Um, there are many ways that the defense can deal with this, and come up with um, a way to not make okay that he had the knife. But if you are a knife carrier, I'm a knife carrier, so I know. If you are a knife carrier, my kids are knife carriers, okay? They know how to use them too, okay? If you are a knife carrier, then you might have your knife on you and not realize you have it on you. And then the minute you get into a conflict, you will remember, I got something. Because it's that fight or flight adrenaline that starts pumping through you that allows you to remember quickly, right? And so then you might remember. So it is very well possible that the defense could potentially try to shape this in a way, and we got to wait until we see Carmelo, whether he testifies or not, whether or not the defense try to bring this out another way or not, that maybe he went to the school not aware that he still had it on his person. Maybe that's possible because it was for a school event. It was not a school day. And so maybe he did something to where he did not realize, but then once he got into that altercation, he realized, hey, I got this in my bag, and I'm standing around here with all of these people who are ops or think I'm an op, and I don't know what might happen because this boy is trying to bum rush me. And so then it could have clicked in his mind. I got a way to defend myself. I'm gonna get him away from me quickly. I don't think there was anything in Carmelo's intentions that he was going to stab and then the boy was going to die. I think that's what happened. And it was unfortunate, but I don't think that he intended that. And that is where I cannot get with this first degree murder charge. That is my main argument in this whole thing, is that this is not a first degree murder. And if this is a first degree murder, we are in trouble in this country. We are in trouble in this country if this is a first degree murder. Because if this is first degree murder, a lot what a lot more well planned, thought out schemes. What is that? What is that? If we are making anything be first degree, then how are we challenging those individuals that do commit first degree murder? You said no, definitely didn't intend to. Exactly. And Miller, and that's what I'm saying, is that that's where I'm saying that this is the argument I think most people are having. This is the issue that most people are having. According to what I heard about what the jurors had to say, this is the problem. This is the impasse that they are at. Is that they cannot see sending this 17-year, well, not no longer 17, but at the time, he was 17 years old, 17-year-old boy, made this bad choice because he was faced with making an instant decision, right? And now he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life because of this. Like, this is what a lot of the people that were asked in jury selection, they couldn't get past that. Because when you're asking them, will you be willing to sentence this child, this boy, to, he was a boy at the time, 17. He was a boy at the time that he committed the crime. You are gonna send this child, sentence this child to a life sentence. The jurors were asked that, and there were jurors there who said absolutely not, absolutely not. I would not be able to do that. Too many people recognized that this was a mistake, and so that is the issue with this first degree murder charge. If you can come to a conclusion, if there are people who can come to a conclusion that George Zimmerman was a stand your ground situation, and that was a not guilty, and then you had Kyle Rittenhouse, that was a not guilty, right? And I think there was more intent in what they did than what happened with Carmelo. How can you arrive to a guilty on Carmelo? And how can you say that what Carmelo did was not self-defense? If in those two situations, and those are just two situations, and if in those two situations, if jurors could arrive at a not guilty verdict for those two individuals who, to me, displayed more intent, how do you get to a first degree murder for this boy, Carmelo Anthony? You said he's also small in stature. It would be hard for me to convict. Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of the jurors were saying. They were like, we wouldn't, they said I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. You know, I wouldn't be able, because this is the thing. For people, for good intentioned people, right? And this is what I mean when I say, like, when I look at cases, I try to give my perspective and I'm honest on whether or not I think I would be able to sit on the jury. I can't sit on the jury of every case. Just because I can acknowledge that I wouldn't be a suitable juror for one case doesn't mean that I can't be impartial to sit on another case. It just means that if I know more about this situation and I've already come to a conclusion in my mind, I don't want to commit myself to sit on a jury and I'm going to be biased. And I know I'm going to be. I know the situations where I would be able to sit on a jury and be able to remove all biases, right? But I know that there are some situations in some cases where I would not be able to do that. And so I would have to come honest, like a lot of these jurors did, and say, listen, I cannot do this. I don't care what you say. I cannot do this. I don't care what the law says in this situation. I cannot do this. And so I'm not going to be a suitable juror. Just like I would be the first person to say I'm not going to sit on any jury where the death penalty is made available. I understand the reason why this nation, that's one of the punishments. I cannot sit on a jury where that's going to be made available. And it's not that because I won't be able to arrive to look at the evidence and determine that the person is guilty. I can still believe that the person is guilty, look at the evidence, but I still don't want to be the person that has to make a decision on whether or not this person gets life in prison or is put to death. I don't want that. I can't have that on my conscience. So I'll leave that to the people who can. And a lot of these jurors, that is their issue. They don't want to be on this jury because they don't want to have to be placed in a position where if they feel the evidence is pointing toward a first degree murder, that they would end up sentencing this boy to a life sentence. They don't want it. And so I think it's interesting that yes, there are no African American Black jurors on the case. I gotta listen in some more to find out what the ethnic makeup is if they did make that available. I'm not sure if Neek or Queen She because I didn't finish listening to either one of them. I wanted to jump on real quick to give y'all this real quick update about the knife and what the defense attorney had to say about it. Before I went to bed, I wanted to jump on and just briefly touch base with you guys about that. But yeah, I gotta go back while I'm falling asleep. I'm gonna listen some more, and then I'll get caught up. Listen, you guys. I'm not gonna talk about this yet, but I tried today to watch the Michael Jackson documentary on Netflix. I had so much work to do that I was just like distracted. So I found myself like I kept having to go back and go back and go back. And then I was like, after a while, I was like, you want to know what? Let me just not watch it. So I did. There were some things that I saw and that I was able to retain, and then other things I want to make sure I can go back and really sit and watch. So more than likely, that will be on the weekend when I watch that. Watch that. Just V did alert me that none of the jurors who did believe Michael was guilty, but still didn't feel like the prosecution had presented enough evidence. None of them were present in the docu series. So that's what I wanted to see, and that's what I was trying to hold off my opinion on what I thought he was guilty of doing. I was trying to hold it off until I saw if any of those jurors came. Because I don't there is one of them that wrote a book. I did not read the book, but I think I might read it. Because I didn't realize it. I knew that there were 3 jurors who had this feeling that he was guilty, but they don't feel like that the prosecutors met the burden of proof, but they were not in the docuseries. And originally, because of the way people were so angry about this docuseries coming out, I thought that's what was going to be in it. So that's why I was saying I'm interested to see if they're going to be in it. Because the way that people were so upset about this docu-series coming out, I was in my I was wondering, well, are these jurors going to be in there? Are they going to be giving some more insight as to why they felt that he was guilty of something, but not enough to convict him of what he was charged with? Um, but Just V says that they were not in there. There was one lady, I do remember this. It was one lady who was the super fan, Michael Jackson super fan. And she quit her job and moved to Santa Monica in order for her to attend that trial. That lady, it was a Black lady. And that is what she did. And that was it. And that was all. She let her employer know, I'm going to be leaving. This is going to be my last day. And because I'm going to be moving to Santa Monica so that I can attend the Michael Jackson trial because I'm going to support him. And so some of the parts, like I said, I heard some of the parts, but I don't quite want to go over it yet because I want to make sure I'm paying better attention to what was being discussed. But I did say the other night, I felt that what Michael Jackson did with those boys was mutual masturbation. I think that was something that all of those boys were consistent in telling when they discuss what happened to them. I see all the reasons why they would recant statements. I see all of the reasons why they would want to retreat back into their little hole, into their own little corners, because of the type of scrutiny that they receive from the public. Michael Jackson is not your ordinary superstar. He's not your ordinary superstar. And so if you think about the level of scrutiny that other accusers and victims have gone through over time when they come out and speak up about their abuse, just imagine what these people have gone through. And these victims, they are not just being judged by what they might not remember or what they might not be able to recall all of because they were children. They are being judged by what their parents decided to do once they were aware of them being victims. And I talked the other night and I said this, that oftentimes that is a defense strategy. That is a defense strategy to take what the parents do and put it on the kids and make what the kids say a lie because of what the adults in the room did when they found out about the abuse. I think that was interesting, but I will watch that and I will come back and have a conversation with you guys about that once I watch it. Tomorrow, I think we're supposed to start with opening statements. So I'm looking forward to getting an update for lunchtime from those that are there. And then an end of the day update. And then if I have time tomorrow night to come talk really quick with you guys about what we learned from tomorrow's proceedings, I will do so. You all have a great night. Thank you, Miller. Thank you, Queen Keish. Thank you, Purple Purple, for coming in with me on this late night live and talking with me briefly about this case. But I think this is going to be very interesting. I think that it's going to make for very good dialogue and interesting commentary. And I am praying that everybody stays safe. I think that this judge, um, no matter what people think about him being a Republican, I think that this judge has done a lot to try to make sure that he can keep this courtroom safe. I think he's done a lot to make sure that he is try to keep the defendant safe, trying to protect the defendant's rights. I think that he has done a lot to try to make sure that at the end of the day that his staff is able to go home safe, and that those reporters who are allowed in the courtroom are able to be there safely, and that the protesters that are there are able to have a safe space to do the protest. But I think he is fully aware of what the social climate looks like right now and what this can escalate to. And so I think that these precautions were necessary in order for him to maintain that order. And so I have respect for him just for that. I know there are a lot of people who have a whole lot of other feelings about him. Some of them have those feelings just because he's a Republican. But I have a lot of respect for how he's running and ordering his court based on what he knows that he's dealing with, what he knows he may potentially be confronting. And so, of course, he cannot avoid that 100%, but he's taking every precaution to try to make sure that everybody can go home at the end of the day safely. And so I wanted to say that and get that out of the way. You guys, I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good night. Make sure you eat your breakfast in the morning. Make sure you have your lunch. Make sure you're drinking your water. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace.